It's the Sod Pod, brought to you by Grassland Agro. The Sod Pod. Hello, and welcome to the Sod Pod. This is episode 7 of season 2, and I'm joined with Davy, Claire, Lauren, and John. We recently had a brilliant visit up to Teagasc Grange. John, what did you find up there? There was some unbelievable stuff going on.
Yeah, it was brilliant, James. Suppose we started off today in the farm of Morty O'Sullivan, and we had his son Owen out with us as well, who was a wizard at grass measuring, so thanks very much to them. I suppose we wanted to just get a bit of a brush up on grass measuring. I think everyone was very surprised by some of the results we got. So we started there anyways. The farm was just outside Dunshaughlin. We went back in. The weather was cat as well, James. Must be added. John Maher had everyone on their toes.
You did.
We walked the whole farm, did a grass cover, loads of grass around, and we'll come back to that. But we went in then to Grange, and we had a bite to eat, and we were out then with Nicky Byrne on the dairy calf to beef research. So that was very, very interesting. They're doing a great job there, and I suppose predominantly it's all steers there. They have a heifer elected down in Johnstown Castle as well, but looks to be very promising for the beef industry, and it's something that I suppose we probably don't cover enough on the Sod Pod, but beef is obviously very important. And I suppose what we'll probably chat about today is a little bit more joined up thinking between the dairy farmer and the beef farmer, because there's a big opportunity there, and I think it's coming to the reality that both people need each other. Calf exports, you'd have to wonder how long more we're going to be able to do that, and maybe some of the tricking that went on with calves this year as well, and early slaughter of calves and stuff like that. That's probably a limited time frame for that as well. So thinking outside the box in relation to dairy calf to beef, and thinking about your breeding strategy, which is just around the corner, could be very beneficial.
Yeah, that's it exactly. And Claire, you were really impressed with Grange. You were coming up, I suppose, from the Waterford side, and you were blown away by what you were seeing there on the calf to beef setup.
Yeah, exactly, James. It was great to see, and it was very good research going on in there. Very impressive with the research going on with the red clover in the sward, in the grass, and then comparing that to just an all grass sward, and just seeing how that compares when trying to finish off these beef or rear up the calves, and compare which system could help or which system is better, or just seeing who could put on the more weight or just finish off better. It's very interesting to see the results coming out of Grange, and they're very promising to see what the red clover in the sward can do, but then also what is maybe the costs or what you have to watch out when you do have this clover in the sward, whether it be soil fertility, your P's and your K's, they can be expensive. And what kind of soil type might suit your clover, whether your pH, is the soil biology working in the soil for you? Is it going to help fix that nitrogen when the red clover is in the sward? So just very interesting to see what Nicky had to say on the clover, and see how the potential could have on farm.
Yeah, unbelievable. And Davey, actually, that's really interesting what Claire's saying about red clover, because I suppose in my layman's terms, right, there's a lot of talk of clover. White clover seems to be an easier approach. Red clover seems to be a bit more tricky to manage, but it seems to have even better benefits. Would I be incorrect or correct?
Yeah, no, you're 100%, James. A lot of benefits with the red clover, especially with the high nitrogen price. And look, it is offering a lot of potential there to cut the chemical nitrogen requirement. And I suppose maybe just around the management of it. And if any farmer has red clover, is maybe going with slurry for the first round, and just because your biology in that clover sward or in that legume is not going to be as active as it would be mid-season or in the back end of the year. So going with slurry and a small shot of nitrogen there through that slurry application is going to be very important, just to get everything kick-started. Mid-season then, there is potential to just go at your 0730 slurry again if you have it. Again, I think it is no harm getting in with a small bit of nitrogen just to help drive on that grass a small bit more. But 0730 is definitely
a runner there, and in the back end again, you're maybe talking about a slurry application again. So slurry 0730 slurry on your red clover silage, and look, a great opportunity there to cut your reliance on inputs. And a lot of I suppose we're doing a lot of talk about sustainability, and I think the word sustainability is often taken out of context, and it's talked about too much, and it's overused. But just in terms of what we're trying to do with our soil sustainability program and just sustainability on farm as a whole, and my view on sustainability is trying to reduce inputs but maintain or increase output. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, I suppose, as a company in Grassland Agro, is trying to help farmers to reduce their reliance on inputs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's actually a point then on that, Lauren, that when you were above, what was your kind of takeaway that you saw when you were above in Grange?
Yeah, look, James, it was a really good day out, in fairness. Nikki gave a really good insight into everything that's going on up there and the trials and everything. But I suppose for me, the biggest thing that I seen was how well they're getting on with the red clover up there and the red clover silage. And I suppose just to carry on from what David was saying and how we need to kind of reduce our nitrogen inputs, there is a massive potential there in the market to reduce those inputs with the red clover silage sward. The fact that we can fix up to about 150 to 200 kilograms of nitrogen in the sward is massive. So look, I just found that like Grange, they're getting on very well with it up there. Persistency in the clover sward is quite good, which can be a massive downfall with red clover. It can be kind of a short-term crop, but I suppose because their management and their soil fertility is so well, they're getting that persistency for that little bit longer. As well as that, when we were out, it was a fairly wet day now, in fairness. When we were up there, we were all togged out. The rain was coming down heavy, but one of the things that we noticed was the red clover is such a sensitive grass species, and I suppose it should be treated like a crop. You could see a lot of the leaves were kind of curling up, and one of the points that Nikki just mentioned was that red clover is very sensitive to abiotic stresses or any cold snaps, and it will kind of shrivel over. And I suppose if we can kind of treat it like a crop and make sure that we're taking care of it, I suppose is one of the key things. But it just kind of outlined to everyone how sensitive of a crop it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Definitely.
Johnny, here's a curveball, right? And maybe I include myself to be maybe sometimes forgetful. The scale of the beef industry, very challenging. Margins are very tight. Over 70,000 farmers are beef farmers. There's probably 12,000 employees linked to the distribution, the processing and all of that side of beef as well. Massive industry. Really, really tough to, I suppose, get the bottom line balanced. Like red clover, and John, you've been talking, as long as I know you're talking red and white clover, and you're even talking plantain nowadays as well, an evolution on from that. But do you think that's a big trick that could help manage this for the beef industry?
Yeah, Jim, I suppose it's very much dependent on nitrogen price. Mm-hmm. And just to go into the red clover in a little bit more detail. So listen, we got to get a very honest appraisal from Nikki, and he was very positive about it. But And there's advantages to this as well. So the first cut, grass only versus grass red clover, the quality of the two silages was actually different, okay? In relation to the protein, and it's down to probably the sward composition. So the red clover had about 18% red clover on a dry matter basis for the first cut. So there's very little differences in that actual first cut, okay? Where it gets interesting then is the second cut. So the sward composition in the red clover was 80% odd red clover at that point in time for the second cut. They were both cutting the same day now, all these cuts. Mm-hmm. When they tested the second cut, it was obviously higher in protein, but it was poorer in terms of energy value. So then when they started feeding it to the cattle, obviously when it's poorer in energy value, they thought maybe this isn't going to be as good. We're not going to get the live weight gains. These are grown cattle, weanling, so they're the only ones that will be housed over the winter period. And to look at that silage, it looks very, very average.
Okay.
Very, very average. Very fibrous stuff. But the live weight gain was very significant there was a significant difference in terms of the live weight gain when the silage the grass-only silage and the grass red clover silage were fed against each other. And although there was slightly lower quality, so feed value, the red clover silage actually done better. So the cattle were, on average, the best of my knowledge, were 15 kilos heavier over the winter period, which is quite significant on an animal that's 350 kilos odd. So they actually were getting a better performance, but the actual feed value wasn't really there. Now, what's interesting about that is that Nicky was saying to us that I think it was a 28% higher intake from the red clover. So they're actually more of it. And you have to factor that into your costs as well. In relation to the cost, there was work done by Peter Doyle there. Obviously, the high nitrogen price is going to make it very beneficial in terms of cost. But I suppose where you're getting massive saving there is in relation to, reducing or displacing chemical nitrogen that's coming onto the farm from a sustainability and environmental point of view, greenhouse gas kind of view. So I suppose in reality, if we can hit our targets that little bit earlier, one of the keys Nicky told us to the profitability of dairy calf to beef systems is getting them out the gap. And what the pitfalls people can fall into, typical beef farmer who's used to keeping very heavy cattle, and instead of keeping two, we keep one and let them run on into 750 kilos, is to get the numbers through the farm gate and after the factory. So if you have a smaller carcass, you have more of them, you get them done early, and you try at as much as possible to get them out before that second winter. And that's very, very important. I suppose, listen, he went through the whole, from start to finish, the calf rearing phase. There's some very interesting stuff there. He talked about the genetics. So we went into the shed and there was a couple of lads that were slagging. They were saying, there's a few jerseys there because they actually have a few Aubreks in the herd, and they just bring that little bit of a red tinge on the forehead like David Corbett. Or David Corbett's beard when it starts to go a bit ginger, when it starts to go a bit wild like. But and you probably suffer from that as well, James, by times.
That's more bits of grey I'm getting. I'm more
grey, yeah. It's more grey you're going now. But I suppose the big thing with that is that, they have the Aubrek. They're nicer looking cattle from maybe the traditionalists there that wants, the bit of shape and the bit of size. The jury is still out whether the increase in the carcass conformation is going to pay for not having the Angus bonus there. But very nice cattle to look at. There was Frisian genetics there as well, doing not too bad either. There was Angus, obviously, and the Aubreks. And listen, they're hoping to expand that, because what they want to do is they want to not only, build a beef industry for just the Frisian calves, but to get a constant supply of beef, because if we all adopt this system, all the cattle will come fit at the same time with a high level of efficiency and management. So I suppose on the red clover, James, good question. It definitely has a role to play. The one thing I would say is that they are grazing it successfully in Grange without bloat, but you'd want to be definitely managing it very carefully. And the way that they do that is they don't have the stock going in very hungry into that red clover silage or red clover grazing ground. They don't allow them to gorge themselves, so they tighten them up when they first go in to give them small breaks, and they have constantly small squares of straw and bloat oil in the water to try and minimise the risk of bloat. So listen, it definitely has a place to play. I think it has a place on dairy farms as well. In relation to dairy farms and the red clover, if you think about it, if your first cut is going to be equal to first cut silage and not very high in protein, it could be a good option for feeding to dry cows. And then when the cows calve down, you have your second cut of red clover, which is going to be very high in protein. It could displace, high crude protein feeds that have to come in the springtime. And I think everyone is definitely feeling the pinch of it this spring. It's been very challenging. Proteins are very low on balance on a lot of farms.
So you're for or against the John, the red clover?
I'm just giving everyone a chance to make up their own mind there.
I don't know,
On
John.
the fence.
No, I'm definitely for it, but I just think I was thinking about it over and back, right? On a beef farm, in reality, I'd love if you had ground that was too far away to graze, but not too far away to get slurry to. I think it'd be absolutely ideal.
Yes, yeah.
And there are a lot of farmers, John, putting red clover and white clover into grazing swards, and I've seen a few of them there now in the last few months, and geez, they're absolute dynamite. Very good, and a lot of potential there in cutting back on that nitrogen as well, and great production. And you say, like, I've seen one particular farmer there in Ula, Brendan Ryan, like, production is very good, no issues with bloat, and the sward just looks exceptional. But John, going back to one thing you said there to start was the beef and the dairy farmer, and trying to maybe build a bridge between the two of them. And I think there has been a start made of that 2 or 3 years ago with the dairy beef index. So our beef farmers are kind of more aware, or have an opportunity to be more aware of what they're buying in on their farm, through these figures and through the DBI, and look, that's constantly going to be developed and fine tuned, but there is a lot more information as to what a beef farmer is getting in. And another thing that we actually previously mentioned on the podcast was with John Maher, and he talked about livestock farmers, and we should have people putting livestock farmers under the one umbrella, because we're all, every livestock farmer is a grassland manager. Do you know, we're all trying to manage grassland, because that is the primary driver of the system, and that is the key input. So there's between 110 120 livestock farmers in the country. Grassland is the key driver, so we will need to maybe try and be a small bit better at managing our grassland. And just back to the O'Sullivans, and we went to, I suppose, we had a farm walk on the O'Sullivan farm up in Meath, and Owen was the young lad there and very clued in. I actually wasn't there the same day because I was down in ACTU in Waterford, but Owen is 14 or 15 years of age?
17, yeah.
Oh, 17, right. But very, very clued in, obviously, to managing grassland. And what I would maybe advise farmers to do, if you are thinking about getting into measuring grass, but you just don't have the time to do it, and I do understand about not having the time, but if there are young lads banging around there in the background or whatever, buy yourself a plate meter or maybe a shears and a quadrant, and send them off there once a week measuring the grass, and it gives them a bit of onus too. And then sit down and go through the figures. And I have come across a lot of farmers that have bought the electronic plate meters and sent the young lads off measuring the grass. That'll automatically put it up on your pasture base, and it's just very useful having that information. A lot easier to manage your grass in, because a lot of farmers are very aware of how much meal they're feeding, but have no idea how much grass has been fed or even grown on the farm.
What an asset Owen was to that farm as well. Like, he was so proud of it. He knew it inside out. Like, there was even great old interactions there that was he the farm manager nearly for Morty, it was just unbelievable. And he knew the farm inside out, really. Mm-hmm. And it was great to see this wave. We had an era there where we thought there'd be no young lads going to take up farming at all. Remember that scary period through the noughties and that. And here's this young guy, very smart, very intelligent and passionate about farming. It was just brilliant.
Yeah, he was unbelievable. I think Liam Wolfe was nearly going to hire him there and then.
Yeah,
and leaves were done.
We couldn't afford him.
Or we should get on to Pat Corbett's and Dave out to do the grass measuring there.
I'm manager.
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
Young lad.
For all these talk, like. Let's ring Pat here now. I'll patch him in here to the call.
I done it there this morning before we came on live.
Oh yeah, good on it. But hey, the DBI, there's a new one now as well. Like, and sometimes the DBI is for the dairy farmer. There's a lot of emphasis on the calving side of it, calving ease and stuff like that, and gestation mortality. But the CBV, which is the commercial beef value, probably gives the beef farmer a better understanding of how those genetics are going to perform on his or her farm. You have a better chance, because there's a heavy weighting in the dairy beef index in relation to calf needs, as I said. So, like, something that calves easily mightn't necessarily turn into a massive carcass and could have a slightly inflated DBI. So the CBV is probably a better one for the lad who's actually buying it. But the best thing if you're going down that route is probably to develop a relationship with a dairy farmer, and even have a bit of influence over the straws that maybe they use as well. Like, so that you can actually get the type of animals that you'll want on your own farm, and you have a secure supply. Because one of the challenges with chasing some of the figures is that, and I've seen it with the Thrive demo farm, the Journal one, or even in Grange, is that you have to go to such a wide range of farms maybe to get the genetics or the CBV or the DBI that you want, that obviously that poses risks in relation to animal health and calf mortality as well. So the fewer number of farms that you can buy from, probably the better. Claire, your dairy farm there, if you had someone that could come to the yard that would take a blast of either Frisian bull calves or Angus's or Herefords, is often very helpful as well.
Exactly, yeah, John. It could be very helpful that you know that there's someone there that could potentially have come and take them for you without putting the calf through too much stress or anything. But what I found also interesting from Nikki, he said another important point of the dairy beef calf is the calving date. That the earlier the date of calving for these dairy beef calves, the better, the easier it is to get them up and getting them thriving, putting the weights on, and get them out the grass. So what Nikki was saying, that the calving day is a very important factor. So maybe when you're talking to your farmers that you have potentially picked out, that maybe some of these cows that they don't want to go back into their herd as a Frisian, that you could potentially say, if they're cycling, put that beef AI straw instead, and get that early calving date for the calf. That's what I picked up from Nikki. I thought was very important, was the calving date of these dairy beef calves. So just try to pick out which cows are suitable for these dairy beef calves, and if they're come cycling for you, go ahead and try and get them in calf to a dairy beef straw.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing, just to comment on what you were saying, John, it can be kind of challenging to bring in new calves onto farm as well. And one of the things that Nikki had said, that all the calves were sourced from one farm. So just kind of picking out an ideal herd or someone and that their history and their vaccination history or kind of their herd health issues, so that you can kind of prep for that in advance.
Maybe one very important thing, and it's going to happen in the next few weeks, is just with calf to beef systems, and maybe calves are going to be turned out to grass after being weaned off. And we touched on it there last year with Bernard DeVitt, and it was maybe when we done our roadshow with all our teams, and one of the kind of biggest take homes for me was what Bernard said was about turning out calves to grass and maybe turning them out to one of the worst pastures you might have on the farm, because real leafy grass, which sounds great, sounds ideal, good quality grass going into calves means you're going to have better weight gain and whatnot. But the problem with calves is that their stomach is not fully functioning and fully developed. So you actually want to put them onto, I suppose, a sward that has a lot of fibre in it. It's like you, John, there, when you had that corner forward coming at you there 2 years ago, and he was absolutely flying it, came towards you, and you caught him with a clothesline and absolutely decked him. Same thing is going to happen to the calf when they're going out to very lush grass. Going to put them under a lot of pressure. Just maybe keeping that in mind when calves are being turned out, and maybe just don't turn them out to that real high plane of nutrition and high quality grass.
Yeah, exactly, David. I would agree. I see a home that when we put them onto what you call a poor grass sward, the calves actually did better. And then maybe we also saw that maybe mixing a bit of straw through the meal that you're feeding the calves as well also helps them thrive a bit better. And we've seen that, we were thinking, oh, jeepers, this lovely lush green grass sward is going to be great for these calves. But actually, if you put them onto these, what you call poorer quality swards, the calves actually did better for themselves and throve better.
As well as that, actually, one of the things that Nikki mentioned was that how strict they are feeding of their milk regime with the calves, and how they try to keep it as consistent as possible. And rather than weaning them or from twice a day to once a day, they keep them on twice a day, and they try wean them off within the week, which I thought was quite interesting, just to try get it done as quick as possible and try get it done as effective as possible.
Just before we start to wrap up, you probably have some final thoughts, but I just want to thank, just before we forget, this Nicky Byrne above in Teagasc Grange gave us a great insight into a lot there. Not Nicky Byrne from Westlife. I don't think he'd know too much about growing grass. John Maher gave us that absolute masterclass on grass measuring in the morning in the rain. John Maher, who also was on episode 24 in season 1, the extended episode. John and Davy went down and met him in Moore Park, and that's a great listen too if anyone missed that back in the day. That went live on the 9th of December. But John and David, you're looking there. I'm just wanting to know, have ye got the rapid fire questions for the two girls?
Yeah.
I knew it.
I actually have a different one.
Oh, even better.
A word association.
Oh, Jesus.
So
David, you're supposed to be fully aware of this.
I am.
No, then it's no craft like.
Go on, Johnny.
So obviously you know how this works. So you say the word and then you have to come up with. We should have probably talked about this before we got into it, James.
We're too full. Would you want to talk about it and I take a pause for a second, or are we just going straight through?
I don't know. I was just rolling into it.
We'll say go.
I never know what it is. Like you have a word association, so you say word, and then you have to say the first word that comes into your head.
So if I said Clare, you'd say losers. That's sort of logic, yeah.
No, zero. It's similar there. Similar concept. Though. Who wants to go first? Claire or Lauren? Okay, Claire.
A reluctant volunteer.
Okay, Claire. Jersey crosses.
Calves.
Okay. Sulphur.
Important.
Phosphorus.
Oh, very important.
I thought you should have said David.
Multi-species sword.
Interesting.
Red clover.
Protein.
Oh, good one. Massey Ferguson.
Red tractor.
There's 2 words of it there, but we're not doing too bad. Claire Hurlin.
No comment. Hurlers.
I have to finish you off with a good one now. So, line.
Microbial activity.
Fair enough there. Dave, do you want to go with Lauren Song?
This is a lot longer than our quickfire questions.
No, it's not.
Well, that's because John and Dave have put in a huge amount of preparation work. Is that right, boys?
David, the sweat coming off his forehead there.
I started a few for you, Lauren. I actually have a quickfire one. I actually thought about it. I thought about it, but I couldn't remember the name of the other person. So,
well, I have 3 or 4.
I give Lauren a quickfire one just to start off with. Then you go into word association. Then, so Vogue or the other person that's on the podcast with her.
Say that again?
The other podcast you listen to. So Vogue.
My therapist ghosted me.
Oh,
what's the name of the other Vogue or
Joanne McNally.
Yeah. Go.
Oh, Janie Joanne.
All right, I know. Right then. Do you want to take into the word association? Well, that's all I have for the rapid fire, yeah?
Okay. John O'Loughlin.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Arrogant.
Noted. Biostimulant.
Stress.
Dog pod.
James Freeman.
Oh.
Sorry, yeah.
Sheep.
Beautiful.
And diets.
And what?
Diets.
Glorious.
Chicken and Stanley.
On that note, we'll call it a day. John and Davy, fair play. Lauren and Claire, only for you. You're keeping the whole show on the road. Mind yourselves out there. Farm smart. Farm safe. Hey, thanks for listening to the Sod Pod. We hope you enjoyed it. To find out more, head over to www.grasslandagro.ie or check out our social channels: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn and YouTube. That's all for this episode. See you next time.